I'm saying to y'all, though, and I know we got to go to break, and we didn't necessarily go there, and maybe we should. There are so many layers in this conversation around the way that it's being discussed. When you no. And yes, Shannon, I know y'all are going to say and Stephen A., I know you just shared that you have talked about the WNBA on your program too. You guys may not have said everybody, but the prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark.
So will Caitlin Clark be a good pro? Absolutely. Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now? Immediately? Absolutely not. Not gonna happen.
ESPN has finally done the unthinkable. They've acknowledged Caitlin Clark as a WNBA phenom. And by acknowledged, I mean they've reluctantly admitted that this basketball queen is about to break the sports world. Let's be real. If she were any more legendary, they'd probably have to start handing out basketballs with her face on them. So what took ESPN so long? Stick around, because we're diving into the insane reasons they couldn't keep ignoring her.
I think it's a beautiful time, and I don't think anybody that is a part of this league or has covered this league, sure, we lament kind of keeping this little thing that we love to protect it from all of the noise, right?
Right.
But in the same breath, the eyeballs and the visibility and the growth is better for all involved. I mean, frankly, John, like, Caitlin Clark got me here, right? You know what I mean?
How the tables have turned. ESPN, that illustrious institution of sports journalism, is finally waking up from its nap to acknowledge Caitlin Clark as the basketball phenomenon that she is. The same ESPN that once acted like Caitlin Clark was some sort of niche internet sensation for niche basketball fans, you know, the ones who read actual basketball stats instead of just tweeting about what color socks the players are wearing.
The WNBA season starting to ramp up and media days taking place around the league. Today was media day for the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark prepares for her sophomore season. She won the Rookie of the Year award. She averaged 19 points, 8 assists per game, led the Fever to their first postseason in 8 years. She also finished the season 4th in MVP voting last year. But this season, take a look. Clark is the favorite for the MVP. Slightly shorter odds than Asia Wilson. That's important because the preseason MVP favorite has gone on to win the award in each of the last 3.
Fast forward a season, and now they're practically falling over themselves to applaud her. Oh, how quickly things change when you start breaking records left and right. But let's talk about last season. Caitlin Clark was out there rewriting history books like a high school kid who just found the cheat codes for his video game. Records? She was breaking them like they were made out of cardboard. But somehow ESPN decided that wasn't enough. They were more interested in giving Asia Wilson the MVP award instead.
She is just different. She's special. Just a different type of electricity, man. Did you hear the roar of the crowd while that shot was in flight? Like, I'm expecting big things from her, especially MVP type conversation things. Like, I think she's ready. She knows it's her second year. She knows what type of physicality is.
Why? Because, I don't know, maybe Asia Wilson once looked at a basketball court and existed there? Could it have been the whole brand loyalty thing ESPN had going with her? Could it have been the power of a strong social media presence? Maybe they needed a bigger headline for their NBA Twitter account. Who knows? You know, it's cute when ESPN just decides to hand out MVP awards to anyone with a strong Instagram game. But let's not forget that Caitlin Clark was out there shattering records like she was on some sort of basketball bender.
I think what Caitlin has done for not just college basketball, but for women's basketball, period, I think has been great. The following, people watching the game, sellouts that we haven't seen ever. It just really bothers me, though, when people just take bits and pieces of what they want to take and they don't listen to everything and you don't hear everything. It wasn't personal. One, it was my opinion on how I think she'll be at the next level, because I do remember me saying that Caitlin, to me, could be the best college shooter I've ever seen. When you put these expectations on these young women in college to go to the next level and be immediately dominant, and when that doesn't happen, then people come back and say, oh, she was a bust, she was a flop, she wasn't that good. Just let them do what they're doing in college, enjoy what they're doing in college, and let them become stars in the WNBA.
The kind of season that made you wonder if she had a personal vendetta against the laws of physics. Yet somehow, someone who didn't break records, didn't shatter the intranet, and didn't look like a one-woman highlight reel got the MVP. It's like watching someone get a trophy for showing up to class on time, while the kid who aced every test and built a working robot in the hallway gets overlooked. You know what? Sure, you didn't lose your homework, but let's reward the one who made it through the door.
Stephen A., I would be remiss if I didn't say this. A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. But there was a lot of people tried to make sure they keep Caitlin Clark in her place, because what you're doing, if you give her all this shine, you minimize what they done.
But then the plot thickens. ESPN, a little late to the party as usual, decides it's time to throw some praise at Caitlin Clark. Well, color me shocked. I mean, they only spent the entire season pretending she was just some passing trend. I guess they couldn't ignore her anymore when every basketball fan with even a passing interest started calling out the obvious. Clark was playing like a monster, and her stats were laughably better than almost anyone else's. And when the fans, those pesky people who actually watch games, start yelling, "Hey ESPN, stop acting like she's some random underdog," you kind of have to pay attention, right? At least, that's what you would think. But no, ESPN in all its wisdom waited until they absolutely had no choice but to admit that Clark was an unstoppable force. They acted like they just discovered gold in their backyard, claiming, "Oh look, Caitlin Clark is great, who knew?" Well, no kidding, ESPN, the whole world knew. But hey, it's better late than never, right? Too bad their delayed recognition can't undo the countless times they acted like she wasn't worth watching. Still, better now than never, I suppose, but the real MVP here is the fans, who knew better from the jump.
I think really what we're going to see from Caitlin this year, it's not just being able to get better on the court, it's also, she's described this greater level of comfort and being that second-year pro player. And I actually asked her today at Media Day how she described where she's at this point this year compared to this point last year.
Now, ESPN's like, "Oh, hey, remember that Caitlin Clark? She's amazing. She's a freaking superstar." Oh, really? It only took an entire season of her dominating for you to catch up? Thanks, ESPN, for finally recognizing what the rest of the world had figured out months ago. It's honestly like seeing your friend who hated a band you loved, and then one day, they're suddenly at the concert with a band t-shirt, acting like they were there since day one. "Oh, I've been listening to them forever, been on this train from the start." Yeah, sure, buddy. Just don't act too surprised when everyone else is trying to remind you of your previous blatant and very public ignorance. Let's also talk about ESPN's ranking system, shall we? We all know that ESPN loves to rank players. It's practically a sport within itself. You know what I mean? Just when you think they've ranked someone fairly, they pull some next-level shenanigans that leave you wondering if they were rating based on the same game everyone else was watching.
Look like she's always in great shape, never afraid of the moment. Again, we're talking about Caitlin Clark here. The spotlight been on her for years. She's not going to shy away from it. I expect her to be in the MVP conversation.
Well,
Take last year, for instance, Caitlin Clark. Remember her? The one who basically turned basketball into a one-person show, was ranked behind Asia Wilson. Again, because why? Who knows? Maybe Wilson has a better PR team. Maybe it's because ESPN's so used to ranking players based on who they've known the longest instead of who actually performed. It's honestly a mystery. So here's ESPN, ranking Asia Wilson above Clark, even though Clark already had the kind of season you only read about in fairy tales, or perhaps a really extravagant basketball movie. But let's not forget how everything changed now. I mean, who could ignore the irony? After they ranked her lower than Wilson last season, after they pretended her name was just some passing blip, they are now throwing a parade in her honor. Caitlin Clark is getting praised like she just solved world hunger, and ESPN's acting like they've been on her bandwagon from the start. It's almost sweet in a way. I mean, sure, ESPN had to spend the entire season pretending to be oblivious, but at least now they've recognized the phenomenon they tried to downplay.
We know that the expectations for Caitlin Clark, they are constant and they are high. How does she continue to deal with that?
Well, the thing with Caitlin Clark, Malika, is that she's so self-motivated, and she even described herself to me today as self-aware, that she really knows what it will take to be able to elevate her game from all of that great success she enjoyed in her rookie season to now this sophomore year. One of the things that she mentioned to me today is that right after the Fever hired new head coach Stephanie White, one of the first things that Clark did with the staff was sit down in the film room, and they really dissected her game film to be able to figure out what were the areas that she really needed to work on.
It's almost as if ESPN went from who's this Caitlin Clark person to okay, we get it now. We really get it. In a matter of months. I'm just waiting for the inevitable about face where they act like they were the first to discover her. The I told you so moment will probably come along with a montage of her biggest highlights, complete with some dramatic music in the background. We'll get the slow motion shots of her draining three-pointers from half court, like she's playing a completely different game from the rest of the world. And yes, Caitlin Clark's going to deserve all of that. But let's not forget the part where ESPN literally had their collective heads in the sand last year. To be fair, Caitlin Clark deserves all the accolades coming her way. She's been putting on a show that makes you think, who needs the NBA when we have this? She's breaking records, making history, and generally taking the women's game to a level that would make even LeBron James start questioning his decision to stick to basketball.
A lot of people say that Caitlin Clark moves the needle. That is wrong. She is the needle. She dictates. We all know what she's done on the floor. It's history, right? But off the floor, my goodness, she and the Indiana Fever accounted for 45% of all the broadcast value of the WNBA last season. She accounted also for helping drive the numbers of merchandising up 500%, of course.
But let's not ignore the fact that ESPN, in typical fashion, dropped the ball on this one. They were too busy fawning over the same tired stories and playing it safe, while a player who would eventually redefine the game was out here doing things that made you wonder if she had been accidentally born in the wrong era. And the best part is, they can't even pretend they didn't. The proof is in the stats, and Caitlin Clark's stats were borderline absurd. She was literally rewriting what it meant to be a point guard. Her points per game were so high they could have been used as a new standard for scoring in all basketball leagues. She was hitting insane numbers from beyond the arc that had you wondering if she was just standing there with a remote control, casually pressing buttons and making the ball go in every single time. And don't even get me started on her vision on the court. She was making passes that made you wonder if ESPN was paying attention at all, or if they were too busy sticking to their typical programming, which, let's be honest, was probably a rerun of some drama no one cares about anymore.
That Caitlin Clark, what she's doing doesn't minimize what they've done, but we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all.
But now, suddenly, Caitlin Clark's the hottest name in basketball, and ESPN can't get enough of her. They'll hype up every move she makes, probably to the point where it's borderline obnoxious. Don't be surprised when the next highlight reel has some slow-mo action shots of her draining shots, like she's literally bending the laws of physics. The network that once barely gave her the time of day is now treating her like she's the best thing to happen to the sport since Michael Jordan decided to turn a dunk into an art form. What's truly hilarious, though, is that ESPN can't even pull off the we always knew narrative. They can't go back and pretend like they were on the Caitlin Clark bandwagon from day one. It's too late for that. The receipts are there. They were too busy investing in fluff pieces and safe, generic content that overlooked the real talent right in front of them. You can't unsee that no matter how many dramatic montages they throw together now.
Caitlin Clark, in terms of the BS that she had to deal with off the court. We got to remember she's been box office, she was the main attraction, and there were so many storylines that's been associated with her. Most recently, the whole thing with her and Cheryl Swoops, even though it really wasn't her, it was Cheryl Swoops and all this. Every time you turned around, there was something that she had to deal with. The reason I bring that up, and I love that, because as a rookie, ladies and gentlemen, put this in perspective. Caitlin Clark finished the regular season leading rookies in scoring, field goals made, three-point field goals made, assists, steals, and minutes played, and she led the league in assists and three-pointers made.
At the end of the day, Caitlin Clark's rise is all the more satisfying because of ESPN's delay in recognizing her greatness. It's like watching someone miss the big play and then try to act like they were the ones calling the shots all along. Sure, they've jumped on the bandwagon now, but they're still a few steps behind, and we all know it. You could literally take half of her games and they'd still be better than some of the MVP caliber performances they were hyping up at the time. ESPN just had to act like they were waiting for the perfect moment to admit they were wrong. But by the time they caught up, Caitlin Clark had already left the competition in the dust. The truth is, ESPN's so-called late recognition is the perfect encapsulation of how sports media works. It's all about who they decide is worthy of attention. You can break records all day long, but unless they can figure out how to slap a shiny marketable bow on you, don't expect them to notice. Caitlin Clark, being the basketball force she is, didn't fit the mold ESPN wanted to follow, so they just put her in the too good to ignore category for far too long.
Reminds me of what Dame does. If anybody ever noticed, her first shot always a three. First quarter, second quarter, third. She sets the distance on her first shot, so you have to guard her there. Now she can do whatever she wants to do. She's playing a chess game. That's what Dame does. He starts his game off, he's gonna shoot a deep-ass three to force you to guard her from there.
And here we are now, watching ESPN scramble to give her the recognition they should have been handing out a year ago. It's honestly hilarious. Like watching a kid who just learned how to tie their shoes try to sprint a marathon, only to trip over their own laces while insisting they've been running since birth. You can practically hear the network producers sweating behind the scenes, frantically piecing together last-minute tributes and highlight packages like it somehow erases the months of radio silence. Oh, and let's not forget the folks who've been saying from day one that she was the real deal. You know they're basking in the glory right now, smugly sipping their coffee and relishing every chance to say, "Told you so." Because yes, there's something truly satisfying about being right, but watching ESPN choke down their portion of humble pie in public view, that's the real treat. It's better than any buzzer beater, any jaw-dropping dunk, any slow-motion replay. This is poetic justice with a sports media twist, and I'm here for every awkward, overdue second of it.
And to speak to her, to be around her, she's got charisma, she's got style, she's got bravado, she's got class, she's smart as hell. Communicates her thoughts very, very well. She is so incredibly marketable that what she is doing on the collegiate level, her coming into the WNBA, you could just feel, I don't want to use the word resentment at all, because it's not fair to women basketball players out there who may have critiqued her. But what I'm saying is that when you're talking about her greatness, it is perfectly okay for those who have been great to say, okay, let's see what you've got.
To now, Caitlin Clark is finally getting the praise she rightfully deserves. And honestly, it's about time. After carrying college basketball on her back, breaking records and packing arenas like she's Beyonce on tour, it's only fitting that the spotlight is finally staying where it belongs, on her. Let's just hope that next season ESPN doesn't turn the MVP race into another who's got the bigger brand popularity contest. Because if they pull that stunt again, snubbing her despite the stats, the leadership, and the undeniable impact, we might just have to start a nationwide petition and send them a calculator. Caitlin's not just playing the game, she's changing it. The world is watching now. And this time, ESPN might actually be following her lead instead of trying to manufacture their own. Keep it up, Caitlin. The court's yours, and so is the future.